The question of the day is, where in the world is Chris Jones? That's what I want to know. That's what you want to know. That's what we'll try to get down to the bottom of tonight on RGR Live. It's the Monday Night Q&A. It's your show. You guys are driving this bus. We're just along for the ride. So cheers to you. I think it's going to be a fun one. We got a lot of hot topics, and I mean a lot of hot topics. Yeah. So we're going to get into it tonight. I'm Ryan Tracy. This is Dan Harms. The guy that's driving the bus tonight is going to be Dan because with the day that I've had, I probably should be drinking if I'm not already. So I'll tip it, and Dan will be the guy that's like the moderator tonight so that I don't go off the handle. And I will tell you why, probably because there's an echo in my other screen. We'll get that squared away here in a second. But for those of you that are members, I gave you a hot flash today. Just a quick opinion on what I'm looking at right now, where I'm at today. Go check that out. It's in the members section, and I'm going to start a new series where I'm just drinking coffee on the porch because that's about all that I can handle right now. How you doing down there, Dan? Is it cooler?
No, it's not. It's definitely not cooler. And, you know, we got back from dinner a little while ago, and I didn't know that these things existed. There's a restaurant in Austin called Salt Traders, and they have birria fish tacos. Birria fish tacos, okay? These things were piping hot. The cheese was fried perfectly to the outside of the tortillas, and the birria oil sauce to dip. I don't know if I've ever had a better fish taco in my life.
Wow,
I'll just
really?
say that. And I've had some very good fish tacos because they're one of my favorite things to eat. So I'm feeling good. I made a cheesecake for dessert earlier in the day. Just, you know, I'm happy. I'm doing good.
Well, I'm glad you are. If something's going to fry, better it than you, given how hot it is down there. I'm glad to hear it. Folks, I am racking up your questions. If you would, you guys who are already subs of this channel, thank you for putting the question marks at the beginning. I know you guys know your way, but if you are new or joining us tonight for the first time, make sure that you like and hit the bell and become a sub. But you got to hit the question marks at the beginning. Otherwise, I just get lost in the comments that come in. So every super chat gets a question answered tonight, no matter what. We very much appreciate that support. You can get the gear here in the RGR store. It's in the description as well. Nice to shout out everybody that's in here, all the regulars. Lego, Flapjack back, Terry, Gary, of course. Gary's always here. One of our mods. Everybody give him a hand. Thomas, Cody. I mean, you guys are all over the place. Luis is back. Christo's back. Scott Vansel's the first one in the door with the first super chat. We're going to get to you real quick, Scott. Hi, Brenda. Hi, Jennifer. Stevie Keys is in the house. Everybody give him a hand. Miss Tracy's here. Yeah, you guys are absolutely right. It's making me hungry. So I guess I'll be eating after this show.
Sorry, guys. But, I can't help what happens, okay? I can just tell you that if you're interested in trying to make something like that, do it. Don't second guess it. Just do it.
Do it. Everybody, hope you're doing well. Nice to see all the members in here. And if you just joined, literally, remember, I just put out a members video for you guys, and I'm going to start a new series. I'm sorry we've had the technical difficulties on the last ones a couple of times where the notices don't go out and they sit there at 0 views. And I'm like, I guess nobody wants to know my opinion. But hey, we're gonna fix that, and I think we got it on its way. Gooch might be dropping in on my doorstep any day. I have no idea, so we're gonna find out. Again, like, sub, hit that bell. We're gonna start writing on your questions because you guys are driving the bus here, and it is starting with Scott. Thank you for the support as always, buddy. Let's say Jones plays the next season under his current deal and suffers an injury of some kind. Will it hurt him in free agency? He's almost 30. It absolutely will hurt him in free agency. It will cost him roughly $10 million would be my guess, because I don't think he's going to get over 20. If he comes up with anything lower body in particular, that would be devastating. Devastating. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope he's in camp. And the real question, why I put it on the thumbnail tonight is I'm not trying to do clickbait. He's going to play for the Kansas City Chiefs this year. There's no way around that. Unless they choose to trade him, he's contractually obligated to play for the Chiefs. He'll have to be here eventually. But Andy tripped me out today. When Andy's like, crap, I don't know when he's going to show up. That's the real question, because it's up to him. Right now, he's on a daily fine. That will continue through the regular season. He hurts his capital if he doesn't play a full slate next year. He hurts his capital if he comes in late and he's not in shape and he doesn't play at his normal level of performance, which is so elite that without a proper warm-up. I don't know if he can do it. If he doesn't come in by day one of week one, Dan, is there anything he can do to maintain his demands?
I don't think so. We're talking about someone who, when you're approaching 30 years old, I know he's in his prime. I think right now he's going to be in his prime. He's going to play the best of his career for the next 2 to 3 years, I would guess. Teams are like, okay, we're going to get probably 2 of those years. You're going to have one more, we hope, this next season that you're still under contract for the Chiefs. And then we get 2 of those 3 years. You're still going to be a good player when you're 33 years old, but you're not going to be the same player that you were. So it's a problem that he's going to have to solve sooner rather than later in terms of getting that contract done. We have no information about what they're doing with the contract and what they're kind of finicking over, whatever it is. There's something that is serious enough for either the team or Chris Jones that this has gone on as long as it has. So we'll get some clarity on that whenever the contract is signed. At this point, I still assume it's going to be signed. I remain that if it is week 2 of the preseason and it's not done, that's when I will get worried a little bit for what's happening. But if he starts the season, he's not there, it's only going to hurt his value. That's just kind of how teams are at this point.
Yeah. I mean, and it goes on. And all my contacts in the agent world, it's pretty quiet out there too. There's theories, but nobody has like concrete information. The Katz brothers don't talk to me, by the way, so that's okay. Some of my other agent sources, they don't have much going on either. So it's like if he were to do that, and I do think that that's right now it's inching towards the fact that Chris might have to play under his current contract, and then the decision becomes tag oriented. How are they going to do that? What are they going to do? What do they want to do? We'll get to all that when we get to it. But in the meantime, I think it would hurt his value significantly. It would immediately drop him to, okay, you're not the second best tackle anymore. The injury will asterisk you down below Quinnen Williams, who just signed at 24. So you ain't getting more than that. I guarantee it. Most likely, you're looking more Fletcher Cox. You're looking more 20, 22-ish at that point. An injury would be terrible for him. And I hope that his representatives are advising him that that is one of the repercussions and the risks should he choose not to make an agreement with the team as it stands now. We'll hope that it is. I'm going to try to hit a couple of your other Chris Jones questions right now before we move on, because that is the topic of the day. Although we got some late breaking news we're going to tell you about here in a little bit. Let's see. Lee, if we extend CJ and save 10 to 20 million, what would be, I assume, what you'd like to do with that? I think you would go out and you'd get another rusher to help you. Like we said last night, a lot of thoughts on Carlos Dunlap coming back. I think you'd also look at possibly trying to figure out what you can do in any other position to bolster what you have. It doesn't necessarily have to be an edge player, but that'd probably be it. I don't think that the running back thing is there. I don't think you're looking at a Jonathan Taylor trade or anything like that. That just seems outlandish. And Lord knows we have a logjam at wide receiver. So unless something very clearly cleared up there, I don't know that you're going out that direction either. So let's hope. I'd love to see a combination of Chris Jones, Amenahue, Karlaftis, and Dunlap again. I mean, who better to get a nice, well-rounded first year under his belt than Felix Anzique-Uzomah to learn from all of those guys that do things all very differently. And I think that would be a great education for him. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
Cody, did you hear how upset Andy was today? Did you hear it, Dan? Because I watched it.
I didn't get to hear the press conference myself. I've been just a little busy doing some more content for you guys too that'll drop on Wednesday. So I was not able to get that.
It's funny because Andy doesn't give away a whole lot. He's very good at smoothing things over and giving you answers that round out into what he's thinking without giving away the recipe, right? Just to keep the food puns coming. But he very clearly changed his tune. Normally he would have said something, and I said this on Locked On Chiefs. If you guys haven't seen that yet, go sub over there if you would. I said it kind of like this. Like Andy's usually going to be like, hey, we're going to work with him when he gets here. We're just waiting for him. We'd love to have him in camp. When he gets here, and we won't do anything. We can't really talk about anything until he gets here. Today he was like, I don't know when he's showing up. Like it seemed very matter of fact. I won't say angry. But it seemed a bit frustrated to me as well. So that's just reading in between the lines, and maybe I'm wrong, but that's the way that it goes. Yeah, great when Andy's pissed. Luis, how about trade Jones to Atlanta and the Chiefs get Grady Jarrett in return for some picks? Not the first time the Chiefs trade with the Falcons. That's true, although it's not Thomas Dimitroff running that roster anymore. I don't know if there's much of a connection with Terry Fontenot, sorry. So I don't know if that's like a simple thing, but I mean, Grady Jarrett is 40% of the pass rusher Chris Jones is. So, I mean, other than maybe getting a disgruntled player out, I don't know that fixes the problem in any way. Would you do that, Dan?
I would not. And I forget how old Grady Jarrett is. I don't think he's much younger, if not the same age as Chris Jones. And if you get Grady Jarrett back, you're not getting a first round draft pick. You're not. The Chiefs would not get what he's worth if you're getting back Grady Jarrett, and then you're losing the pass rush acumen. The problem with the trading Chris Jones situation, during the season, your pass rush is built around Chris Jones. It's completely built around it. Yeah. So this season, he basically has to play all year for you, or your pass rush, it's going to be bottom of the NFL unless something crazy happens. And some of the pass rushers at defensive end have career years and ascend to places where we haven't seen before. So unless he's playing in Kansas City this year, there's a lot of pass rush problems, and your defense is going to suffer because of it. It's built, like I said, it's built around him. So you would have to assume tagging and trading him after this season would be your best way to go about it if it's not resolved up until the regular season.
Agreed. As long as he plays without injury, he's going to have a high value come the offseason. That's really all that matters. Thank you, Luis. And if you guys would hit the like and subscribe, we appreciate that. Thank you, FLDB and Nightbot. Cody, yes, I do want to get together. Well, hit the wrong one. Sorry, Cody. I do want to get together. I have 0 minutes in the day right now, brother. So let me get back to you as soon as we settle down. Hopefully, second preseason game-ish. Hopefully, we can get on the phone. And if not, then I'll have to email. But I think I got the digits stored, brother. So we'll get back to you. Let's see, Steve. Who would be the starter replacement for Snead, Chris Jones, and Amenhue if they go by their current roster? Well, we talked about the corner spot last night. You think it's Williams. I'm leaning towards Watson right now. Could be either. I think both are solid and have strengths and weaknesses themselves, but I think both of them are viable, right?
Yeah, I think so. And they both have your strengths and weaknesses. I think right now Williams, at least by camp definition, has the upper hand. Especially today, he was the starter with McDuffie, and Watson came in nickel. So that's, at least right now, the way I lean.
Yeah. Austin, he has to be on the 53. Charles Amenhue does, due to the suspension, on the 53 on day one. And then the suspension, I believe they can get an exemption to sign another player in the meantime. So, but that still goes. You still have to spend the money that you got, and the only cap space you have is 562 right now. So that's a bear to get through. Let's see. Let's get back and make sure I hit everybody because Jackson disagrees with me, and that's perfectly legit, people. We can all disagree, and it doesn't mean anything. You trolls know who I'm talking to. But he actually thinks that Reed's just tired of answering the question. And that's a fair point, Jackson, because I would be if I was Andy Reid, that's for sure.
Andy Reid's been getting asked the same question for the last 2+ weeks. When's Chris Jones going to be here? I imagine you want to focus on the players that are there and talk about the players that are there too. So that's definitely an angle worth considering, Jackson.
Yeah, I agree. Brandon, do you guys think we'll be okay without CJ? Okay being, can they win, 3 out of 4 games? If he had to miss 4 games, I think they can run 75%. But, against the elite of the AFC, I think they need Chris Jones. I don't think there's that much margin for error that you can do without, an elite player like that and still be okay.
Patrick Mahomes can cover up a lot of things. We've seen that in the 2018 season when they were covering up one of the worst defenses in the NFL, and even historically one of the worst defenses. So he can cover it up, but like Ryan's saying, it's not going to be the same with the best teams. They'll take advantage of that, and that's unfortunately why Chris Jones is needed on this defense right now more than I think ever.
Yeah, that's a fair argument. I got to get there. Okay, I'm going to clean up the rest of the chat, and we're going to hit the Chris ones here. Max had one. How you doing, Max? Is it a concern that Chris is not working out with the team for soft tissue injury during the season? I mean, he has enough money to invest in a good trainer. As I understand, he's been very active. When he was in Kansas City for the barbecue fest, that was the last time I actually saw a picture of him. He looked super lean, so that makes me feel like he's probably doing the right things. Let's just hope that he still is. I don't know the trainer's name, but as long as he's staying fit, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, I'm with it.
Chris was just listed at 10 in the top 100. What do you guys think about that? Well deserved, in my opinion. I mean, hey, yeah, I won't make any argument. That's by your peers. I probably would have him place you too higher, but I think that's pretty accurate. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you. It's the peers always do that, and they kind of left out Aaron Donald this year out of the top 10, which I wouldn't have done. It's by default, he's a top 10 player in the NFL, and I would still have him over Chris Jones just because it's Aaron Donald. Like, so there's just the thing that goes through. Maybe they were waiting to see where he ended up on the list. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the line, behind the screen there. So it's deserved. It feels about right for Chris Jones, the 10th best player in the NFL. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah, hey, that's what I can take as well. All right, we'll get back to. I'm sure folks will have more Chris Jones comments later in the show. We'll get back to him, but let's get to some of this because there are other things going on. And Kobe wanted to know what would Nico Remigio have to do in the preseason to earn a roster spot on this roster? To me, it's pretty straightforward, but let's start. What do you think he would have to accomplish?
He would have to prove himself to be an electric NFL punt returner, first of all, period. And kick returner, wherever they want to put him, that's number one. Because right now, Richie James is your punt returner, is said by Dave Tope. He's your punt returner. Denaric Prince is your kick returner. So he comes out there and he shows that he can, get you chunk gains on return opportunity. That's in the bag. To get yourself on the roster as a wide receiver, you have to put up 100-yard games pretty much consecutively to force their hand. Because right now, we're going to talk about the reason why you have to force the Chiefs' hand right now. You have to force them to keep 7 wide receivers right now. There's no room for error now with the wide receiver room. And like I said, we're going to talk about it. But you got to show I can put up 100 yards against an NFL defense. I regardless of first, second, third string, I can do that. I can catch the football. I can use multiple ways on jet sweeps, wide receiver screens down the field. We've seen that in practice. Now you got to show it in a preseason game.
Yeah, you have to make them not be able to look away from you. That's the only way right now. And I like Nico. I think he's destined for the practice squad, and I think he can play a role in the future. But there's so much talent at this position, and they're so tightly packed at the bottom. For me, it comes down to one thing. Whether it's as a returner or possibly in another special teams role, he has to outplay Justin Watson. To me, that's it. Because that's the kind of spot you're trying to take. And no matter what happens, whether they keep 5, then the 5th wide receiver has to be the special teams ace, right? If they keep 6, 5 and 6 have to play special teams quite a bit. If they keep 7, all 3 got to contribute to special teams. So that seems to be where the rub lies of who can jump who and where. We'll see. A lot of differing opinions about who's ahead of what and where. The only people that know are inside that building, and frankly, they ain't talking right now. So
right.
Christo, I haven't seen much from our corners outside of Trent. How do you feel about our back end? And with the Chargers having QJ, is he and Williams in trouble? Quentin doesn't scare me. I got to tell you. Ask the beat reporters out there in San Diego about the drops. I think I'm not scared. I think Williams and Watson in particular, I think they have the length and the strength to play against Mike Williams and Quentin Johnson. I actually think Nick Jones can as well. I don't know if he's going to make this roster, but I think that in terms of the physicality and using his length well, I think that he can. How do you feel about it?
So the Chargers wide receivers, Mike Williams always beat them up, like regardless. I don't think that's going to change a ton because of the way that they attack the Chiefs corners specifically. They get Mike Williams on an island against guys like Williams and Watson who don't get the head around to the football. And one thing that Mike Williams is very good at is making contested catches down the field when he's the one ball tracking. That's probably not going to change a ton. But Quentin Johnston is not going to be doing that. I can promise you right now, if they try to make him like Mike Williams, that's not going to work out. That's not who he is. And regardless of the catches that we're seeing in training camp, where there isn't as much contact as there's going to be on the NFL field, he's still body catching. He's still letting the ball travel too far. He's doing all the same things that he's been doing his entire career at TCU. And Quentin Johnston is going to be a get the ball to him quickly, let him yak teams to death. That's what he's going to be asked to do in his rookie season more than anything else. So the corners themselves, I think that they're in a good spot to be a decent group again. They surprised last year. They're going to have to continue to do that. I think Trent McDuffie's going to take a step forward. And right now, what I'm hearing out of camp is that neither Josh Williams nor just Jalen Watson is stepping up to take that role. Like, both of them have been making the same mistakes they were making last year as rookies. So that's not a great area to be. So someone's got to step up when it comes down to it.
And as I talked about on Locked On Chiefs today, you guys, I'm starting to get concerned, because if there's anything, if this rolls over and L'Jarius can't play in the season, this gets a bit iffy. And so I like the fact that they seem to be running McDuffie at the nickel all the time. He talked about his preparations, and I think that's great, because it allows L'Jarius, I think, to be an ace on the outside, using the boundary. I think he can be quite a bit better than he is inside at the nickel, but he's got to be healthy. And so you have to have guys that can stand up. That's why I do think Nick Jones is in a good position here. I think Najee would have been ahead of him had he stayed healthy. But right now, I think Nick Jones is destined for the.
I think Najee was going to end up starting.
Yeah,
along
I
with
feel
McDuffie.
that way as well.
I think he was on that trajectory, and then he got hurt. Like, that's really bad. And honestly, that might be why the other two were kind of making those mistakes. Like, he was passing them, and they got in their own heads. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not inside there. I don't really know, but it happens sometimes.
It does. No one's immune. You got to have a short memory, especially as a cornerback. No one's immune.
Yeah.
Jackson, with the suspension of Menahue, say he gets reduced down to 4 games instead of 6. I think that's fairly likely. What time of production, or what type of production could he put up for us this year? Also, I've been a long-time viewer and appreciate all you do. Thank you, Jackson. We appreciate you for being here very much. I don't know. What's your gut tell you? Say he plays 13 games in the regular season. What's your byline thought?
This is, again, assuming that he's rushing next to Chris Jones. Okay, right. He's getting one-on-one next to Chris Jones.
Right.
I do think that, that's the key here, because if he's not, we're talking about a completely different thing. So with Chris Jones there, Menahue has the pass rush acumen to get 7 or 8 sacks, I think, even with 13 games. I think that's a trajectory he can get to. When you're playing the whole season, I think he could get to double digits, but I think 7 to 8 is still where I would land on him if he were to play the full season. But the high end for him is 7 to 8 through those 13 games, especially if Chris Jones is there.
Yeah. I mean, here's why I like the signing. Last year in 2022, playing for San Francisco, mostly at interior, the thing that he did the most for me is he doubled his pressures.
Yeah.
He went from 33 to 62 pressures. He only ended up with 7 sacks. But again, if you are getting those singles with Chris Jones next to you, I think that continues to go up. I agree with you. I was going to say 8, so I think you're right up there with me. But I'm pushing for like 70 plus pressures from him, and that helps George. It helps everyone on that line, helps Felix come along, does everything. If he's not there, the guy who gets doubled is Menahue. It's not George Karlaftis. Without Chris Jones, Menahue will get the doubles, in my opinion.
Absolutely, because he's going to be the best interior pass rusher. But it also depends on how they structure the pass rush. Because even last year, when they put George Karlaftis at that nose tackle position, sometimes he was getting double teamed. So it's going to be how they structure it. They can move guys around. We know that Joe Cullen has done a good job of doing that. But again, the problem comes down to is the teams, when they're not having Chris Jones on the field more consistently, will probably identify Menahue as the guy they want to double.
Yeah, I agree. PK, thank you for your support, buddy. Appreciate the super chat. Hope you're doing well. Was wondering who has shown you the most in training camp on offense and defense. Why don't we flip it? You take defense.
All right. So Nick Jones right now has really done a good job as a rookie. I think he's shown. I mean, the obvious answer for me is Trent McDuffie. He's really taken that step and accepted the challenge. But I wanted to go a little bit more on the underrated route. Nick Jones is getting interceptions in training camp. He's right now almost the de facto backup, if you will, slot corner if Trent McDuffie is going to stay on the outside, which, Trent's talked today about how he's learned more about slot because, again, we talked about this in the offseason. They're getting themselves ready just in case L'Jarius Sneed's not going to be in Kansas City going forward. So Trent McDuffie will be asked to basically take over the L'Jarius Sneed role, and then that will alleviate some things going forward. But Nick Jones has done a great job of coming in, not really shying away from these NFL players, and he's smaller. He's got really good ball skills, and he's coming in and showing that he's got that change of direction that you're looking for. From a slot corner, he can stay with some of these speedier, quick guys, and he's getting hands on balls and coming down with them. So he's really impressed me a lot this training camp.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, he could be the wave of the future, and then they got to go back to if it all works out that way. On offense, clearly Justin Ross has made strides from where we were last year because he's made it through camp to this point. That's the biggest thing. But I do see his physicality back. I see his body control back, and I am excited about that. There's more to go. We're going to talk about him later. The one guy that I think has actually shown me a little bit more than I expected, other than Ross, is Deneric Prince. He has a different game, especially with the pass catching, than I saw on film. Like I don't know who this kid is. I don't know. Do they go back to like high school? Where do they get these ideas? Because that's 2 years in a row they've nailed a UDFA running back to fit this offense better than I would have expected.
It's funny, they did the exact same thing with Pacheco last year with throwing him a ton of footballs, because if you only have like 20, 17 catches in your college career, they have to know you can do this, because this offense will eventually throw you the football. If you're going to drop it, they're not going to put you out there to catch it. So Prince, again, has done a great job of handling all the passing that he's been asked to do with everything going against these young players. And that's something that you can really take away. The pass protection, on the other hand, is somewhere where we've seen it not necessarily be up to snuff.
It's like a theme. Young running backs have trouble in pass pro. It's just the way that it goes. Right. Thank you, PK. We appreciate your support, pal. Let's see. Jeremy said, one of our older members, thank you, Jeremy. What should we watch for in preseason game, in the preseason game? And for me, it'll be tempo of the offense. When Mahomes and the starters are in there, I want to see how quickly they move out of the huddle. Do they have rust, or is it we're right back? They literally have had the least downtime of any team in the league since the last time they were on the field. So I do feel like my expectation is that they're a little smoother, a little cleaner, except for maybe the wide receivers who are still learning where to be or what role they have to be in. What do you want to watch?
This is not going to be an answer many people want, but special teams, because we're in a position right now where most of us think we have an idea of what the final 50, 49 roster spots are going to look like. And when you're looking at those last ones, pay attention who's out there on first, second team, gunners, punt returns, kick returns, looking at the kickoff teams, kick return teams, trying to find guys that are consistently out there on punt team, on kick team, things like that, to give you a better idea of where Dave Toub feels, of how he feels about these players. That's going to be a really good insight into these end of roster spot players and how they're going to be asked to play in special teams.
Well, and I'm going to give you guys a little heads up. I don't think he'll make the roster, but I think the practice squad player, UK Staters, are going to be happy. I think you're going to have Felix on the active roster. I think Ike's going to make the practice squad. He's showing.
Yeah, he's been running with the ones a couple of days this past weekend and last week. They want to look at him, so I think he's absolutely going to be on the practice squad.
Yeah, and I'd love to see homegrown talent make it. If we can get Daniel Wise on there, we'll just have a big old fiesta there of all the local teams. Kev, is Nagy our next head coach in waiting? And if so, do you think he's capable of the offense at the very least? I have trouble with this only because every time I think Andy's winding down, he seems to get a second wind. Could he coach until he's older than Dick Vermeil? Dick retired at 72?
Yeah, I think so.
That's a ways. So maybe, but I think if Andy sticks it out, like I kind of feel like he will, Nagy will probably get another head coach offer before then, because Nagy's going to be the OC here for a bit.
It really does depend. I don't believe Matt Nagy is a head coach in waiting in Kansas City. I don't believe it. but because I think he's an offensive coordinator. I think that's what he's going to be best at. I think that might be what he ends up being most successful at. And I think that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes kind of understand that. But I also think that Andy Reid is like, man, I could break some records here. Like, I'm loving what I'm doing. I'm having fun. I'm winning 12, 13 games a year. That all-time wins list, you can creep up there pretty quickly when it's all said and done. So the fact that they're having fun, that they're winning Super Bowls, it takes pressure and stress off of a coach. Like Andy Reid probably at the end of his tenure in Philadelphia was probably feeling it a bit. And even through the early parts of his Kansas City career, because they were winning games, but pressure was on them to win those playoff games. Right now, things are a little bit different, and the pressure is a little bit off. So it's kind of added some life and some years to Andy Reid's coaching career.
Yeah, I just don't know how many. We're gonna have to see how it goes.
We'll
I love seeing
out.
the grandkids at camp is a new one. I'm glad to see that. That means something, I think. So good for Andy. He's got to get the most out of it himself. And here's the question of the day, Jennifer. Thank you very much. This is the big thing that's tearing us up, and what Dan was alluding to before. You got to convince this team to keep 7 because, thanks to our guy Shefty, it looks like Kadarius Toney is going to be available for Week 1. That's crazy because to take one snap in camp and hurt yourself, I'm relieved. I hope that comes true. I am a little bit concerned that what that does is set it up that he's got to be on the roster. We knew he was going to do that. There's no room for a 7th in waiting. If you want to make this roster and you're one of that 6-7 guys, you got to be competing right now because of this.
Exactly. Like the perceived idea was that they were going to waive one of their vested veterans. So they're one of the older guys that they could probably get back after they put Kadarius Toney on IR, and then that way they could keep 7 receivers and also get back to that 4 tight end or 5 safety room that they eventually wanted. This puts a little bit of a different spin on it because I believe that they're going to keep 4 running backs, 4 tight ends, and 6 wide receivers. That's a lot of position players. It's a lot of them. And if you're going to keep 7 wide receivers, 4 tight ends, and 4 running backs, it makes you have to go less other places. And I know that you have it projected that way. I'm not entirely sold that they are going to be able to, they want to go 9 offensive linemen. Maybe they want to keep 3 quarterbacks because they don't know if Bouchel gets picked up somewhere. And
right.
There's a lot of different things that go into it. I do think that 7 is still within reason. It's definitely within reason. It comes down to, again, how are you going to force this team to keep you? If you're not showing out in the preseason, if you're not playing a ton of special teams as a wide receiver, and you're not affecting the game, how do you get on the roster? So this makes it a little bit more difficult because it's set in stone now. At least we expect Kadarius Toney to play. There's no he's going to IR, so we're bringing someone back. So yeah, That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I am hopeful for this. It makes it harder on everybody else, but let's be real. Kadarius Toney should be the number 1 here. That's what they plan for all off season. That's what they're looking for. So yeah, I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. Doxter, and thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate it. Doxter, a little conjecture here, but could it possibly be time for a blockbuster trade? I mean, it could be, but any team looking to trade for Chris Jones right now is going to want to pre-negotiate the contract extension.
Exactly.
That's going to be tough this time of year. So it could be, but the time for it was March or early April, just before the draft. So I still think that's probably the most likely time in the future is next March. Tag and then talk trades. Let's see. Des, thank you, sir. What do you think of Veach's quotes from today? I must have missed it because I didn't see Veach at the podium.
I have seen a few people mention that, and I have no recollection that he said anything. So if someone is in the chat and they can put what he said so we can kind of see what was said, that would be useful, or give us a tweet or something like that we can see, because I got no idea.
Yeah, please hit us with what he had to say because I did not catch it. But Des, thank you for the super chat, and I will look for your next response because I know you know. So I can always trust Des to keep me informed. Steven, rank the following interior lines. Waters, Shields, Wigman as a group. Grunhard, Zott, Shields as a group. Tooney, Creed, Smith as a group. Okay. I will take mine second if you want. I'm starting to step over your questions here today. You weren't alive for half of this, so.
Yeah, I know. So I've got a good idea. I believe I would go Water, Shield, Wegman is 1.
You are correct.
Tooney, Creed, Smith 2. Grunhard, Zott, Shields is 3. So there we go.
Well done. Well done. You didn't even have to see them all play. I like that. Steven, do you agree? That's what we'd like to know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, right.
Who are the best interior threes? Because I agree with you, Dan. You laid it out perfectly. I read that Leo's lining up to rush the passer. Do you think the case will really take advantage of his pressing, tenacious, violent nature? I certainly hope so. He also was very adamant at his presser this week about the fact that he's been working on his hips to open them up and get depth and be able to turn and run and play coverage more. So I was happy to hear that because he is very natural, as you put it, his tenacious, violent nature. Yes, he's going to be rushing. As I understand it and the way that I think it'll shake out, I don't think they're going to try to play him in a down stance. As long as they keep him on his feet, rushing from a wide 9 outside the tackle shoulder, outside the tight end shoulder would be my preference. I think that he can get you some pressure, and that's all I really need him to do. He doesn't have to turn into a sack artist. He's got to be a fifth rusher that can get home if they screw it up. Otherwise, he's making one-on-ones for Chris Jones, and I think that works.
All right, so I appreciate the question, because again, I love seeing Leo Chanel propaganda. Leo Chanel rushing the passer is my area. It's one thing I wanted them to do coming out, and I do have the quote from Brett Beach in front of me. So it's when it gets done. I can't answer that. Beach said there's no thought or mindset to trade or anything like that. Our intention is to get something done. We aren't there yet. The first game isn't until September 7th, so that's a positive for us. Chris has played in the scheme now for a few years, and he does a great job of staying in shape. We'll continue to keep plugging away, and hopefully something gets done. So basically, he said nothing that we haven't already known. They're working on it. That's what I have to say about the Brett Beach quote. It's nothing we don't know.
I'll tell you what I think. That's BS. Hopefully this gets done. That he's either pissed off or he's lying to us. Hopefully this gets done.
That's the thing too. Like, we have a quote. We don't have him saying this.
Okay.
I want to visually see Brett Beach say this. That's what I want to see, because then we will. You can give away some things how you say it. So we just need to bother Teicher enough to get him to tell us how Brett Beach said it. That's what this comes down to.
Yeah. Thank you, Tyler. We appreciate you posting that so we could see it. I don't know where that came from. Also, let us know where that came from so I can go research it a little bit more, because I had not seen that at all.
It's in the article that Adam Schefter tweeted from Teicher.
Oh, okay. So Teicher got the audience with the GM. Okay. Well done, Adam. Cheers to that. That's hard to come by. James, in what in-season trade could you see the Chiefs making this year? Whew. That's a good one.
In-season trade. That's a tough one. I don't really see them making an in-season trade right now. They've done it the past couple of years because they've needed to. Tony was for the future. Ingram was for the playoff push. They have a ton of defensive ends. They have a ton of wide receivers. If you're making a trade, it would probably be a corner. If Williams and Watson aren't working out, you need someone on the opposite end. But those corners that would be available aren't really moving the needle unless someone's unhappy. So that's a tough one.
I don't have a tinfoil hat to put on, but I'm going to turn this one around.
Okay.
So just ride with me for a minute, because I am 100% not impressed with Sam Howell at all. I don't see how they win ball games. If the Washington Commanders start out really, really bad, October looks like a good time to try to get something for Chase Young. That's all I'll say. I think it's worth investigating. If they start 500 or over, say in the first quarter of the season, that probably all goes out the window. But if it's just a fire sale like everything else in that organization is, I would be pressing that phone a little bit, only because it won't cost you much. I don't think the extension is going to be anything major. Obviously, with the injury history, that is a reclamation project, like all reclamation projects are for Brett Veach, and I think that could be something they look at.
Yeah, if they do that, you're basically saying George Karlaftis, FAU, one of you did not work out. That's 2 first-round draft picks in the last 2 years that you have spent on defensive end, and to trade for a defensive end who was also a first-round draft pick to try to rehabilitate him, to me, signals that you don't believe in one of the guys you just drafted in the last 2 years.
I understand where you're coming from. I would only agree with that depending on what the compensation is. So, you know, if it's on the cheap, it's a 5th round pick, then I don't think that means anything for the guys that are here. I just think it's a garage sale. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But you have a good point though. But I'd rather have 3 guys that are first round picks that you could call a rotation.
I agree. It's more of how are you going to use all of them, and you're going to have to pay them and things like that. So it just comes down to, for me, how are you going to do it? If it's cheap, it's cheap. Maybe it's a rental. Maybe it's a 1-year rental.
Yeah. Hey, I've done dumber things. Might as well try it out, right? Max, thank you, buddy. Have you heard about Russell Wilson struggling with the offense and the training camp throwing multiple interceptions, missed wide open passes and stuff? I have heard that. I am in town. I have a tendency to think that that's just growing pains with Sean. Sean's got a pretty precise offense, and I got to tell you, I think guys trying to play it is more difficult than it appears. Kudos to Jameson and Teddy, who've been able to pull it off. I think Russ is a little bit set in his ways as well. So I think it'll come together. I just don't know if it's going to be full-fledged Sean Payton offense.
We also have to remember, one, learning a new offense is never easy. Last year, Russell Wilson was given basically do what you want. I'll give you the structure of the offense, but you can kind of do whatever you want. And that caused a lot of communication problems with their wide receivers. And if you guys, I don't remember if you guys remember, the first season that Patrick Mahomes had a camp, he was throwing interceptions. Remember, it was a topic of conversation that Patrick Mahomes is in camp throwing a ton of interceptions. That's when you want to be throwing interceptions. You want to be testing your limits of the offense. You want to be testing windows to throw into, the timing, how you're going to get all of the ball out on time. Where are you going to throw it? Did you throw it behind them a little bit too much? Are you testing a little bit too much out too? So there's a ton of missed context for interceptions thrown in camp that we just cannot really buy into, because there's so many things that teams are doing, players are trying, and that's the time to do it. Training camp is the time to try things out that you will need to know how it's going to go in a game. So I don't put much stock into it.
Fair enough. Lego, why hasn't Pop been cleared yet? It's not the hand, it's the shoulder. I believe it was a labrum repair, and those generally take a little bit longer, but they're saying that he's good to go by week 1. I think they're being cautious at this point. Pacheco himself said he's good right now. So that means he's got full mobility. He's got his strength back. He's been in the rehab process. There's no reason for him to play in the preseason at all. None whatsoever. When you have a first-round pick in Clyde Edwards-Helaire and an incredible UDFA running back in there, let him sit, let him be rested. I think it'll be fine. If anything, it allows you to have him lift a little bit more, put a little bit more armor on his shoulders, and kind of protect it, and I feel good about that.
Yeah, just let him get healthy.
Yeah. I love Carlos Donlip. When will the Chiefs sign him, especially in light of CJ? Mark, I agree, and I'd like to see him back. I think as soon as Chris gets done, Carlos will be the next call, is my guess.
Yeah, it'll be, I think you might have them sign on the same day. To be very honest with you, they might see it on the same day.
That could help. Cheers, Logan. Thanks, buddy.
What's up,
Appreciate
Logan?
the support. Good to see you, pal. Lego, the way the injuries are starting to stack up, do y'all still favor our schedule now? I still do, because there's a lot of injuries across the league this year, and I'm not terribly concerned other than Kadarius. And with the news tonight, I'm feeling better about it. Are you still worried?
Last year, remember, we were kind of worried about the Chiefs' schedule. We thought it was going to be really tough, right? Ended up being one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. So we're not going to know until the season's here. So I've really stopped trying to predict how the schedule is going to be tough early on before the games are starting to play. Ask me like week 3 how the schedule looks, because that's still early enough that you have projected teams out and we'll have a better idea of how these guys look.
Fair enough. Folks, we are to the 15-minute mark. We're going to start speeding up to get to all the super chats. Make sure we hit them. So don't take it personal if we breeze through, give you an answer and move on. But we're going to get to that now. Which team are you most concerned about this season? Bills, Jets, Bengals, Ravens. It's still Bengals for me. Oh, we lost you, bud. It happens. He agrees with me, though. Let's just say that Dan is going to back me up. Okay. If the pass rush runs through Jones, why isn't he paid the $30 million he wants to and be done with it? And that is a fair point. He is the most elite player on this defense, and 30 is just super high, and you're not Aaron Donald. That's the way that it works down. Dan's going to work on his headphones. Don't mind him. He's not glaring at you. He's glaring at me. But I really do think the number is going to be around 28. And Clinton, I'm with you. I think that they can get that done. If CJ's defense to the way that Mahomes is to the offense, Pat would get however much money he'd ask for. That's a fair point. And I do think that there's a level that they're willing to go for that. The difference being is that Chris Jones is not a quarterback and he's 30 years old or just about. So I think those are the two primary differences, to tell you the truth. Other than that, I think it's fine. And it looks like we have Dan back. Yay.
Should be working now.
Okay, yeah. Bit of a delay, but you're good. Donnie, thank you, buddy. With Andy's comments on the DE room with Felix playing more than we initially thought, or could some of the others like Herring be showing out? Herring, as I understand, is playing well. They even got Kando a few reps with the ones this week. So that should give you an idea also that sometimes you just get reps with the ones to see what you can do, because I don't think Kando's destined for this roster. But I do feel that that's starting to get Felix up to speed, and they certainly have confidence in George Karlaftis, and they should.
Yeah.
Hey, that was on time. I like that. Larry, what kind of effect does Matt Nagy bring to the offense? What do you like about it?
Because he's going to.
Uh-oh. Now we're back, Dan. You're breaking out. I tell you what, just go to room audio and let's see what happens. It can't be terrible. I think Matt's going to help Mahomes be creative in a different way. I do like some of the things they did in the running game in Chicago when he was drawing stuff up. I hope that they get a little more creative with that. Maybe having fresh blood like Prince and Pacheco in there will help. But we'll have to see what Nagy brings to the table when we get there. If you guys want some of the MVP gear or you want the Rogue Nation stuff, you can get that all in the store down there. Thanks for reminding me. Appreciate you guys. It helps a lot. Dez, could we essentially trade CJ, sign Hunter, and then either trade for DeForest Buckner or sign Grover Stewart as a free agent and still have a semi-decent defense? I mean, didn't Daniil just sign a contract, though? Or am I wrong? I thought he took a deal. Trade for Buckner. I would be interested to see what he has left after this season. But I would look more towards calling up Chris Ballard and saying, hey, I'll trade you Chris for DeForest, and let's see what we can get done as a little sidestep, and then go after some free agent type stuff. I like the concept as. And correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong about Hunter, then I certainly would go after him. It's just, again, you're talking about all guys that are getting up there in age. You got to be careful. Cole, are you back? Oh, no, you're still breaking up. It's got to be your interwebs. How many of the first 6 games can we win as long as Jordan shows up? Cole, I have them going 5-1 right now, and that is assuming that he's going to be there. I came to that realization before Menahue signed, so I'm treating that as a plus, as more strengthening. If Chris is out, I think that will change, but I don't think that a Menahue being missing as long as Chris is there is going to cause anything to change the ability to win 5 games in that group. The question is going to be timing, and some of the short turnarounds is what I'm a little bit more concerned about. Let's see. KL, hope you're doing good. Dan, what's inside camp info you got on Justin Ross? You started to elaborate last night, but stopped. Do you have any on Rice? And I will, obviously Dan's not here, but I'll tell you how I go about it. And for those of you that have seen the members video, go check that out because I elaborate a little bit more. I have people at camp all the time. I talked to multiple of the beat reporters that are there, some other guys that get in with credentials, and a lot that don't. I have guys that I coached with 20 years ago that go to camp and give me updates. I have a lot of people whose opinions and their eyes I either worked with, trained with, or understand. And so I have a lot of little nicks and knacks that kind of give me an idea of what's going on when I'm not there. Because I always go late in training camp because all my effort, I could have, expounded for hours on Najee Johnson, how good he looked. And now that he's hurt, that's just wasted effort. So I always wait till we're close to the end of training camp to go. But Kale, thank you for your super chat. Very much appreciate you. When Dan gets back, we'll try to circle back. I'm not going to take you off the list because didn't quite answer your question. So just bear with me. Stevie Keys, everybody gives Stevie a hand, old hand around here. Your take on the overall negative impact on the secondary if there's no CJ, because they likely negative impact on the pass rush. And it's just time. It's how much can you shake loose? And clearly the guy that will be under the most stress for me is likely Trent McDuffie, because it will be his first season where he's generally going to be mostly in the nickel. And I do think they will try to run games to either confuse him or use guys that are super quick out of their breaks to try and get on him, because his hips are good, but they're not elite. And I'm really intrigued, though, how much he may have improved. But that's where it is for me. Did you make it?
I don't know.
Sounds pretty good to me. Rock on. Let's have you answer this while you're still here. Did you have inside info on Justin? Because you started to answer it last night. You didn't. He said, do you have any on Rice? Damn. That didn't last 30 seconds and he's gone. Okay. Come on, Apple. Give us some AirPods that work. How dare you? Well, only Dan can tell. Oh, you sound like you're in a phone booth from 1962. It's awesome. Yeah, like you said, yeah, it's done. Do you have a mic on that laptop? Okay. Well, look pretty. You're doing a good job. If James messes up on punt returns, who do you think takes over? Cole, right now, they seem to be leaning towards Deneric. Obviously, with a rookie, you got to see that come around. I question if you want Justin Watson back there. They seem to be giving him a shot, but I'm iffy on that, to tell you the truth. I think he couldn't come back to, and in all intents and purposes, Sky could be the guy eventually again. But I hope they keep a practice squad player like Nico around, that if something doesn't work out with James, that you can try to squeeze him on the roster somehow, let him take that over, because I do think there's natural talent there. The other guy who's returned some punts, McDuffie's done it a few times, I have to say. And I believe Nick Jones has as well. So get some other looks at it. Obviously, there's guys that are pushing to make the roster just to play special teams. Justin Ross would be one of those. I just haven't heard anything outstanding about his return ability, or if he's really, they're shaping him up to be a gunner. I don't know. So we're going to have to see how that shakes out for him. And go back to Stevie's, sorry. The impact, I just think it'll stress Trent. And I think, honestly, it's going to make the job of the safeties a little bit harder, because they're going to have to cover, and I don't mean cover as in guard a man. I mean, they're going to have to cover the lapses of the corners a little bit, because the corners are going to be exposed by having longer time to throw from the quarterback. They will eventually shake loose. So it's going to be up to Justin Reed and Brian Cook to kind of take over, play that leverage game to scare quarterbacks off from throwing at that particular corner. And I think that's the way that they can protect their pals. I think they'll do a decent job. Okay, we got that one. Sorry, folks, I'm trying to count these down here. Do you think the Rams would trade Donald for CJ and a draft pick? I doubt it, and the Chiefs wouldn't want that deal given his age and his contract. So I would not have that happen. Let's see. Maybe.
Going a little old school here with the
hey,
that had
works.
To finagle some things. And yes, John, I am sitting on my mother-in-law's chair. So yes, it's basically the grandma's couch.
If the Raiders are terrible and Adams is forced his way off the team mid-season, is there any way the Chiefs want him, or is that crazy? I'm sure they'd want him. They don't want his contract. It's can't ridiculous. Afford his contract. Yeah. So no, I think we'd all want him. Same D-Hop situation, right? An elite player, the contract that matches that they just can't afford. So I do agree. I want a house that has a basketball court in it, like Patrick. I can't afford that.
Absolutely.
They're very different things. Thomas, what position group will be a surprise upgrade from last year? Who do you think might be sneaking up on us?
sneaking up. I mean, I think we're kind of understanding the linebackers. I think are going to be better than they were last year, but that's because of the addition of Drew Tranquil. It's going to help them in the pass, just in the passing department at all. Period. Pass coverage will be much better than it was last year. So, surprise. I don't know if anyone's going to necessarily surprise, but I think the linebackers are going to be much better than they were last year.
I hope so. I love watching good linebackers play. That's kind of my bread and butter. Steven, can Andy fix Baker's career? Not unless Andy becomes a head shrinker. I don't think so. Tyler, do you guys think the Chiefs will keep 3 quarterbacks because of the new emergency spot rule? I don't. I'm still leaning towards 2 because I just can't justify it. But I like the emergency roster spot rule. I don't know if it changes anything enough for Andy, though.
Yeah, I don't know. We're going to find out. I think that they've wanted to keep 3 in the past, and they've gotten lucky with only having to keep 2, but we'll see. We shall see.
Roster cutdowns, does Amenahue count? Yes. Does the 3rd quarterback count? Yes. Other than using Bell as a handshake deal that would sign back, who could you use to work the cutdown trade? The guys that I keep coming back to, obviously, Bell's one of them. Derek Kennard's another. Prince Tagovailoa's another that I think you can probably get that done. In this situation, depending on Chris, I think Daniel Wise is another situation there that you could probably work that. I want to say the young guys like Jack Cochran or some of the linebacker level, they're probably going to go elsewhere. Same thing with the DBs. There's just going to be a lot of demand.
Yeah, I think you can work with an offensive lineman and probably a safety, Mike Bush. You might be able to do that, or yeah,
Mike Bush.
Absolutely,
I like that.
Awful. Sorry about that. So yeah, Devin Bush is someone you could probably get down to, and make it work that way.
Kurt, why do the Chiefs struggle so much on 3rd and short, and what can they do to fix it? I assume you're meaning on the offensive side, given you're talking short. Honestly, it's about prowess and leverage. It's do you want to go beat that guy? And the Chiefs are drifting back towards a little bit more of a finesse offensive line. So it really comes down to the push you get off the ball. And nothing against Joe Thuney. For me, it's a gap on Creed's right. It's Creed and Trey. That's the only way that you're going to improve is get those guys to come off and demolish the guys over them better. Creed plays with good leverage. I think he can deliver more power in the future. And I think Trey needs to get his pad level down in those situations, and he has the power to deliver.
I think it comes down to passing more on 3rd and short. Just throw the ball. Force teams to have to respect if you're going to get into shotgun and if they're going to blitz the house, you make them pay. Or if they don't, then you have the ability to run the ball in that regard. But their best way to get a yard is throwing the football. They should just continue to do that.
Okay. Hey, everybody but Russell Wilson agrees with you. Cooch is back 2 nights in a row.
What up, man?
Man, I like it. Watched HWIA.
I don't know what that is.
And agree. People forget Ryan Shazier. Ooh, yeah, had the same condition. He just started walking again. Cautious optimism is a must. Yes, absolutely. Optimism is definitely granted and deserved. Caution is as well. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. And I can't figure your acronym out though, Coach. Good to see you, buddy. Though. And I love this one. Just
what's up, Coach? How you doing, man?
Logan, thank you for hanging in. From an APY standpoint, what's the max amount you think the Chiefs have before they actually choose to move on from Chris Jones? Whew. Man. And people are going to blame this on Clark Hunt, and I don't think that's the case. I think it's Brett Veach. I think it's Brett Veach that is the limit here. I don't think it's Clark and not wanting to write a super check or something like that, or not having it in escrow. The man's got it in escrow, I guarantee it. I think for his future team building ability, I don't think 30 is a number that he wants to hit. So 29 is probably his max.
I think 30 is the max. If they go over 30, that's it. And they're not going to pay him.
Okay. Hey, that's fair. I mean, the structure is really important to this one as well. And I don't think we talk enough about that. Scuba Steve, welcome back to the memberships. Nice to see you. Folks, if you want to be a member, you want to get the rants and the real deal about some of the things that I don't like to say in public because it hurts a lot of people's feelings. If you want that kind of drool, you can end up in the members section and you'll get that join at the rookie level or above. You also get into the Discord and the discounts on the gear and all that other stuff, as well as NFL 33, that we have a ton coming for you there. I hope you guys will check in and dig that. Dan's got something this week. I've got something this week. Some of our new writers do. We're pulling in people from across the country, so I think you guys will dig it. Chiefs fan, you're back. Appreciate you.
Man?
Or Knicks fan. Sorry, I always do that. Appreciate you, pal. If Jones gets too expensive, could that hurt the O-line extension or some of the wide receivers? Do you think they are looking for the future of his contract? They absolutely are. Bolton and Creed in particular.
Yeah.
I believe part of the reason Snead hasn't been done is because they can't because of Chris. Like I think those are all balls in the air right now. You're trying to keep juggling. So keep them up there. I definitely agree with that. Thank you, Knicks fan. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, man.
I know we're on a roll here, guys. We're going to dispense with a couple and get to all the super chats. And then I'll try to circle back depending on time. Here we go. Beth, thank you very much. Hi, guys. I'm a junior down at Mizzou State. Nice. We're really pulling for Ty Scott to get a spot on the team. I think it means something they brought him back to camp. Have you heard anything? I've heard a couple of flashes, but nothing consistent. I do think they like him enough to put him on the practice squad. Dan, would you argue with that?
No, I don't argue with that at all. But again, it's flashes, and that's enough to get you on the practice squad. And we talked earlier about making the coaches have to put you on the team. And unfortunately, I just don't think that Ty Scott's going to be able to do that this season. You know, we'll see going forward. But there's a lot of talent on this team, and that's something that when you have as much talent on a team like the Chiefs do, or all of these NFL teams do, it's up to these players to astronomically get better in a lot of different ways, or to prove that you can be an ace on special teams. That's how most of these guys get on rosters. If you can be an ace on special teams, that's what it comes down to. So probably not going to happen this year, but one more year in the system, maybe work on all the special team stuff. He'll have an opportunity next year to get on that.
I hope so. I like the story. I like Freifogel for the same reason. Like I pull for those guys. And that includes Justin Ross, everyone. Yes. Again, check out the members video. Beth, thank you. We appreciate your support. I'm going to hit all the super chats and then we'll cram in whatever we can after that. Quentin, thank you very much. Appreciate you. What do you make of the behind the back pass? Do you think it's something that could ever be pulled out in a game? I got to tell you, seeing it against a defense in a live session on 11-11 made me turn my opinion around. I think they just might try it. I know Patrick Mahomes is ballsy enough to try it. I just don't know if he's going to get yelled at or clapped at from the sidelines.
I think it's going to happen. And it wouldn't shock me if it happened in week 1, if they're up a ton on the Lions and they're like, go for it, Pat. Go for it. We've been doing this short pass over the middle all game. Flats open, you take a shot.
Oh, thank you, Quentin. Appreciate you. Chris, I'm glad you brought this up about Veach saying he has no intention of trading Chris Jones. It's exactly what he has to say to keep them at the negotiating table and keep them from looking around. Will Tampa trade their wide receivers if they look as people expected them? I don't think so. I don't know the Chiefs would be buyers in that situation either. Gary, is Snead going to be ready week 1? They're hopeful. They say that they're doing all this in order for that to happen. I just got to see it to believe it. So
he wasn't nervous. A part of that group that was the article that was released like 5 minutes before we went live. That gives me some pause.
Yeah, I have to agree. Okay, wrapping up the last few. Glad mentioning CJ is not a drinking game. You are absolutely right. Although
I would be drunk every day.
It would be fun right now, I got to tell you. Thanks, Lee. Knicks fan, thank you again. I will always be grateful for PM15. Absolutely. I appreciate you, buddy. And thank you I am always going to be grateful for you, as I am for Stevie. And now that it's Charades with Dan became a segment.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely something that could happen.
It's like 3 words, first word.
Thank you, Stevie. Appreciate you, Stevie. I know Steve's a great corner, but what's holding him back from his rookie year production? Honestly, I think it's the fact that he's longer and taller, and the nickel is not his best thing. I think he can play better outside, in my personal opinion. And I think it allows him to play a little bit more physical. He has gotten more aggressive over the years, and I think that's part of it as well.
Yeah, it's also a little bit of quarterback stay away too. Like they targeted the rookies a little bit more last year. He did get beat a few times by good slot players, but I think the majority of the time he's not the rookie that the quarterbacks are going after. It's everybody else that they're going after.
Yeah, absolutely. What kind of impact do you see from Mike Edwards? I think he's going to be the third safety. I hope that he continues his interception streak. I just don't know if that's something you can rely on. Some of his stuff feels streaky to me. So his reputation is that he's a big turnover producer. Okay, show me. I'm ready.
Yeah, he's been opportunistic in camp. Like that's kind of what I expect him to just kind of look for those opportunities, and hopefully he can keep doing that.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's see. Thank you, Stevie. Scotty, which camp crush will cause Gooch's head to explode? Because Dan was right about them. I don't know if Powell makes the roster.
It's never going to happen. I'm going to be paying for that that the love that I fell in, the thing that I fell in love with Cornell Powell for a very long time. So it's made me a better evaluator. So there's at least that to come out of it.
There you go. Steven, do you think that Jones is concerned that he gets franchise tag next year? I don't think so. I think he does actually want to be here. If he had a group of players to play with, I think this would be it.
Yeah.
And if he gets franchise tag, he's going to make a ton of money, and then he gets another crack at it. So I don't think he cares. And we're going to wrap tonight with Mr. Gooch. Here's where I'm at.
Oh, okay. I get
Thanks,
it.
buddy.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Brian.
Yes. Very much appreciate it. And I'm glad you watched it, Gooch. If you have an opinion, please let me know, because I'm trying not to get crazy. Trying to keep it professional. That's my goal for tonight, folks. And I've been asking myself this, Rick, over and over and over. So cheers.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
Another Monday Night Q&A. Thanks to you guys. We very much appreciate you. We'll be back as normal on Sunday and Monday. Post game will be Sunday night, right? So we're getting back into the flow. I'm also considering adding a live stream either Thursday or Friday. I know you guys are into the live streams. It helps us all connect, and I do enjoy that. So I'm willing to add another one. I need to know. So far, Friday is winning. So leave your comments in the regular comments of whether you prefer Thursday or Friday. Hit that thumbs up, and we appreciate you. Dan, I think the old school method worked. I appreciate you having that around.
I'm just picking stuff up in my mother-in-law's office and throwing it on my computer. So I'm using her webcam. I'm using this. Like I don't care. I'll throw it all together. We'll make it work.
At least it fits the couch, bud.
Right. Got a nice ambiance going over here.
All right. I have a look tomorrow at some long shots for the roster. Missed that. Gary's also going to be back with his super analytical look at some of the best topics. You don't want to miss those. Dan's back on Wednesday. Seth on Thursday. You're going to see me again on Friday. Don't miss it all. Make sure you like, sub, and hit the bell. Thanks. Have a great night and great rest of your week. We'll see you tomorrow.